I've never liked fences much. Always figured they divided more than they protected. Out here, before the subdivisions and bylaws, before anyone called themselves a committee, fences were just for keeping cows in and coyotes out, not people. When Ellie and I bought our 60 acres outside Newberry, South Carolina, it felt like we'd stepped back into a version of America that still made sense. The mornings came soft and golden, dew still clinging to the pasture, roosters breaking the silence just before dawn. Our boys ran barefoot through the rows, their laughter mixing with the cluck of hens and the whir of the old windmill. We homeschooled them, grew our food, composted what was left, not because some influencer said it was sustainable, but because it was honest, efficient, real. The air smelled of tilled soil and rain. The days rolled slow, steady, measured only by chores and sunsets. Back then, a man's boundaries were drawn by trust, not by survey stakes or bylaws. Freedom meant something you could feel in your hands. That was before Sunnyway Estates, before the meetings, before Karen Larkin. She arrived like a storm in designer heels. Karen Larkin, the kind of woman who wore pearls to a pancake breakfast and carried her clipboard like it was government property. You could smell the citrus perfume before you heard the voice. Bright, confident, already rehearsed. I first met her at the Newberry Farmers Market on a Saturday morning when the air still smelled like kettle corn and diesel. I was behind my stall, selling honey eggs and a few baskets of Carolina Gold tomatoes when she appeared with that politician's smile. "You must be Judson Campbell," she said, shaking my hand like we were closing a deal. "Sunnyway Estates would love to partner with your farm. Maybe a community event, a little FarmFest, Easter hunts, pumpkin patches. We have a newsletter that goes out every month. Wonderful exposure." Her tone dripped with charm, but her eyes said contract. I wiped my hands on my apron and gave her the kind of smile a man gives a telemarketer he can't hang up on. "Appreciate the offer," I told her, "but we're not part of Sunnyway. We keep to ourselves." That smile of hers tightened just a fraction. "Well," she said, tucking a brochure back into her purse, "independent lots can attract attention. Strangers, sometimes they make the neighborhood feel less secure." There it was, the velvet thread wrapped in community spirit. I watched her walk away between the rows of flower stands, clipboard gleaming in the sun, already imagining whatever memo she'd write about the farmer who wouldn't play along. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment the line was drawn in the dirt. The quiet kind of tension that doesn't roar, it waits. For a while, it was quiet, too quiet. No more muffins on the porch. No more friendly brochures about community integration. Karen disappeared from sight, but her shadow didn't. It crept through the subdivision like a rumor in church. One neighbor mentioned that Karen had asked if he ever felt safe living next to an unregulated property. Another said she'd seen something in the HOA newsletter, an article about unmanaged lots lowering neighborhood appeal. Even the pastor's wife brought it up after Sunday service, asking if we'd considered beautifying our field, the same wildflower patch we'd planted for POLLINATORS. At first, Ellie and I laughed it off. We'd seen this kind of thing before, people with too much time and too little dirt under their nails. We figured the gossip would blow over once they found a new target. But days turned to weeks, and the comments kept coming, a drip of polite poison in every conversation. "It looks a little overgrown out there, Judge. Hope you've got good insurance with all that equipment sitting around." The tone was always the same, neighborly on the surface, but sharp underneath. Ellie said it best one night as we locked the gate before bed. "She's not done," she whispered. "People like her don't back off. They plan." I stared out across the dark field, the fireflies blinking over the grass. And for the first time, the fence didn't feel like protection. It felt like a line someone else was waiting to cross. It started on a Friday night, the kind of evening where the crickets drown out every other sound, and the only light on the horizon comes from your own porch. I was in the barn fixing the pulley on the feed chute when my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Caleb, the mechanic over in Whitmer. "Hey man, is the BBQ tomorrow still on? Sounds epic." I stared at the message, confused. "What BBQ?" I typed back. A few seconds later, his reply came through. The one on Facebook. "Free food, live music, beer. Your farm says it's tomorrow." The wrench slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a metallic echo. My heart sank like a stone. "Ellie," I shouted, already heading for the house. She met me on the porch, phone in hand, eyes wide. "You're getting messages too?" I asked. She nodded, scrolling through her screen. Dozens of unread texts, people we hadn't spoken to in years asking if they could bring kids, if there'd be vegetarian options, if we needed extra tables. We opened Facebook and there it was. A bright green flyer with cartoon cows and banjos, our farm address printed in bold. Campbell FarmFest, free food, live music, family fun. Saturday, 10 a.m. The logo in the corner looked official, like something pulled straight from a county fair poster. My name was plastered across it. My stomach turned cold. "I never made this," I muttered. Ellie zoomed in on the post, hundreds of shares already. Local parent groups, veterans forums, even a college events board. Someone had gone out of their way to spread it. We tried reporting the page. Facebook thanked us for the feedback and promised to review it shortly. That was it. No removal, no action, just a polite shrug from the algorithm. By 10 o'clock, the phone rang again, this time from the sheriff's office. "Judge, this is Deputy Calloway. We've had a few calls about your event tomorrow. Folks are asking about parking and traffic control. You expecting a crowd?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "There's no event. Deputy, it's a scam. Someone's using my name." He was quiet for a long second. "Well, you might want to be ready anyway." I hung up and stood there in the doorway, staring out across the dark pasture. The night was still, but my chest was pounding. "It'll die down by morning," I told Ellie. Though I didn't believe it, because deep down, I already knew it wasn't going away by morning. By dawn, the horizon was already glowing silver through the pines, and that's when I saw the first set of headlights snake down the county road. A silver Honda slowed near the south gate, then a blue Dodge, then another. Within minutes, both shoulders were lined with cars, bumpers kissing the grass, engines idling, radios humming faint country tunes that didn't belong here. Ellie stepped onto the porch, robe still tied, coffee steaming in her hands. "Judge," she whispered, "they're stopping," and they weren't just stopping. They were unpacking. Folding chairs popped open like clockwork. Someone rolled out a cornhole board. A man in a cut-off shirt cracked a beer and cheered, "Let's get this thing going." My heart hammered in my chest. I grabbed my hat and walked down the gravel drive, boots crunching like thunder in the still morning. The air smelled of exhaust and trampled grass. Kids were already chasing each other near the ditch. A woman in a straw hat was unloading a cooler. "Morning," a man shouted. "We're early, but figured we could help set up." I stopped at the gate. The metal latch was locked. "Thank God there's no party," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is private property. You all need to turn around and go home." Laughter rippled through the crowd. They thought it was part of the show. "Come on, man," someone yelled. "Don't be that guy. Says right here, FarmFest, free food, live music. You can't cancel now." I felt the anger rising, slow and hot. "You're trespassing," I said. "Leave now." A teenage boy climbed up onto the fence, one foot hooked on the top rail. "Dude, chill. I just want to look," he called out. Then it happened. His shoe slipped. The metal screeched, and he fell hard onto the packed dirt. The sound bone and ground meeting made my stomach twist. His mother screamed and ran forward. "Justin." Chaos erupted. People shouted for help. Others pulled out phones, recording, blaming. "You could have warned us," one man yelled. Another woman shrieked, "We're calling the cops on you." I was already on the phone. "This is Judson Campbell," I told the dispatcher. "I've got a crowd of people trespassing on my property. A teenager's been injured. I need deputy." By the time the sheriff's cars arrived, lights spinning against the dawn mist, the road looked like a tailgate gone wrong. The injured kid was cradled in his mother's arms, blood soaking through a towel. People were shouting about lawsuits, about negligence, about justice. I stood by the locked gate, heart thudding, watching it all unfold. The strangers, the phones, the confusion, and thought the flyer was fake, but the lawsuit was real. By noon the next day, the chaos had shifted from my front gate to my mailbox. A thick envelope arrived by courier, heavy enough to feel personal. Inside was a letter from a firm I'd never heard of, Hale & Associates, attorneys at law. It was written in that polished, clinical language only lawyers use when they're about to ruin your weekend. "Our client, Mrs. Sandra Miller, intends to pursue damages related to injuries sustained by her minor son, Justin Miller, during a public event hosted on your property." I didn't even make it halfway through before I said it out loud. "You've got to be kidding me." Ellie read over my shoulder, her face pale. "They're calling it a public event." Before I could respond, another envelope slid through our inbox, this one from the HOA's legal counsel. I read the first few lines and felt my jaw tighten. "Cease and desist from defaming Sunnyway Estates and its representatives. Continued accusations or insinuations will result in civil action." It hit me all at once. They were hitting from both sides. One lawsuit for something I didn't host, another threat to shut me up about who did. That's when Jason showed up, my younger brother, half mechanic, half hacker, full-time problem solver. He dropped his backpack on the kitchen table, pulled out a laptop and said, "Let's see how deep this goes." Within minutes he was tracing the fake FarmFest page, following breadcrumbs like a bloodhound through the digital mud. The Facebook profile was new, only 3 days old. The flyer, built on Canva, metadata, scrubbed clean almost. Jason smirked. "Amateurs." He dug deeper, running the registration email through a lookup tool. A ping appeared on the screen, a local IP address. "Bingo," he said. "Whoever made this used a connection to miles from here." He cross-checked the coordinates, narrowed it down, and leaned back in his chair with a grim smile. "Judge, you're gonna love this. That IP belongs to the HOA management office, Sunnyway Estates, right there on Oakwood Drive." The air in the kitchen went dead quiet. Ellie's hand froze on the coffee mug. I stared at the screen, the green dot flashing like a heartbeat. "This wasn't random," Jason said. "It was deliberate." And in that moment, I realized we weren't just fighting gossip anymore. We were fighting strategy. By Sunday morning, the story had spread faster than ragweed in July. The local paper ran a short piece. "Viral farm festival sparks chaos in Newberry County." No mention of fraud. No mention of the fake flyer, just a neat little headline that made me sound like the fool who'd invited half the state to a barbecue and then locked the gate. That afternoon, I sat across from my attorney, a man named Robert Wayne who spoke softly but carried a legal mind sharp enough to cut wire. He read the HOA's threat letter twice, then set it aside with a sigh. "They're boxing you in, Judson. Personal injury on one side, defamation on the other. If you wait, they'll bury you in filings." He leaned back, steepling his fingers. "So don't wait, hit them first." He drafted the suit that night. Harassment, defamation, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. My name went on the plaintiff line. Karen Larkin and the Sunnyway Estates HOA went on the defendants. Jason spent the next 12 hours turning evidence into ammunition. Screenshots of the fake event posts, timestamps from the server logs, email headers, even a screen recording of the IP trace pinging the HOA office. Ellie gathered Facebook messages from neighbors confirming they'd seen Karen commenting under posts about the big farm party. One of them even attached a photo Karen at the HOA office printer. Glossy flyers stacked beside her. By Monday, the file was 3 inches thick. We sent it to the county clerk, stamped, sealed, and entered into the record. The moment it became public, everything changed. The Newberry Gazette posted a follow-up. Farmer sues HOA over fake festival. Local radio picked it up. Facebook exploded. Half the town called me a hero for standing up to bullying. The other half said I was stirring trouble that evening. I sat on the porch watching my boys chase chickens through the field. Their laughter was the same, but I could feel the weight pressing down, the kind that makes a man understand he's not just protecting land anymore. He's protecting peace. Ellie came out with 2 mugs of coffee. "You did the right thing," she said. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. Out beyond the fence, the fields shimmered gold in the setting light. Calm but fragile. "This isn't about a flyer anymore," I said quietly, watching the horizon. "Now it's war." The courthouse in Newberry wasn't built for drama. Pale brick, creaky floors, air that always smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old paper. But that morning, it felt like a stage. Reporters waited on the steps, cameras balanced on their shoulders. Inside, every bench was full. Neighbors, strangers, curious onlookers pretending to need jury duty. The whisper of speculation rolled through the room like low thunder. 2 cases, 1 truth. On the left, my suit against the HOA and Karen Larkin, harassment, defamation, fraud. On the right, the Miller family's claim against me for negligence and injury to their son. It was all tangled together, and everyone knew the verdict would ripple through every cul-de-sac in the county. I sat at the plaintiff's table with my attorney, Robert, a legal pad under his hand and calm in his voice. Across from us sat Karen, her hair perfect, her blazer crisp, and 2 lawyers flanking her like bookends. She didn't look at me, not once. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. You could hear the hum of the ceiling fan, the shuffle of papers, the tap of a pen. My pulse pounded in my throat. The opening arguments blurred together, the HOA painting me as reckless, irresponsible, unwilling to cooperate with the community. My attorney countered with the timeline, the proof, the pattern. Then came the evidence. Jason took the stand first, walking the jury through the digital trail he'd uncovered. Calm, clear, every word measured. He explained how the fake FarmFest account was created, how the metadata tied directly to the HOA office's network. Then the IT forensic expert confirmed it login timestamps, identical to office hours, no VPN, masking, no outside access. The origin was local. Karen's lawyer tried to shake it. "This only proves someone at the office used the Wi-Fi. It doesn't prove my client did." That's when Robert stood. "Your Honor, the district attorney's office has provided additional records under subpoena." He handed a printed email across the bench. The judge adjusted her glasses and read aloud. Subject, community engagement, idea FMOT. "Let's show Mr. Campbell what real outreach looks like. People love free food and music. Maybe then he'll join the neighborhood properly." The courtroom went still. The address line showed. Karen's official HOA email, dated 2 days before the flyer first appeared online. Karen's face barely twitched, but her lawyer did, leaning in close, whispering furiously. Then came the next blow. The former HOA IT contractor, brought in as a witness. He told the court he'd seen Karen at the office printer that Thursday afternoon, laughing about a little event to teach the farmer some manners. Karen's composure cracked, not a full collapse but a tremor behind her eyes. Her lawyer called for a recess when they returned 20 minutes later. The fight was gone. The gray-suited corporate attorney spoke instead. "Your Honor," he said, voice careful and measured, "my client wishes to propose a settlement." You could have heard a pin drop in that courtroom. Karen stared straight ahead, her clipboard confidence gone, her pearls dull under the fluorescent light. After weeks of silence and months of pressure, the empire she built on bylaws and gossip finally bent. When the judge returned, she didn't waste words. She adjusted her glasses, flipped through the signed documents, and began to read the settlement aloud. The entire courtroom leaned in, not out of curiosity, but disbelief. Defendant Karen Larkin admits to authoring and distributing fraudulent promotional materials under the pretense of an event known as Campbell FarmFest. She acknowledges intent to cause reputational and emotional harm to Mr. Judson Campbell and his family. The air felt heavy. Karen sat motionless, hands clasped, jaw tight. The kind of stillness that only comes when there's nothing left to fight for. In accordance with his confession, the judge continued. Ms. Larkin will pay $185,000 in damages and legal restitution. She will serve 18 months of probation and is hereby barred from holding any current or future leadership position within the Sunnyway Estates Homeowners Association. Robert gave my knee a small tap under the table. I just stared straight ahead, barely breathing. The judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, Ms. Larkin is ordered to issue a formal public apology in 3 local publications, the Newberry Times, Midland's Family Life, and the USC Student Courier. This apology must acknowledge full responsibility for the incident and its consequences. Karen's attorney nodded without meeting anyone's eyes. Then came the last blow, not to me, but to the HOA itself. In light of the Miller family's injuries sustained during the unauthorized gathering, the court recognizes no liability for Mr. Campbell. However, the Sunnyway Estates HOA will remit a symbolic settlement of $15,000 to the Miller family from its general fund, acknowledging a failure to prevent misuse of its network and resources. The judge set her pen down. The sound echoed in the quiet chamber. That concludes this matter. For a long moment, no one moved. No gavel strike, no shouting, no cheers, just stillness. Ellie's fingers tightened around mine. Across the aisle, Karen stared at the table, her pearl bracelet trembling faintly as she signed the final page. As the bailiff collected the paperwork, sunlight slipped through the blinds, cutting a clean line across the courtroom, floor half shadow, half gold. That's when it hit me. Justice didn't march or roar that day. It just signed the paperwork. It rained the next morning, the soft kind that smells like turned soil and second chances. The drops patted against the new metal gate we'd just installed, beating along its smooth gray surface. Beside it, fresh signs read private farm, no public entry. The letters bold enough to stop a caravan. 6 new cameras watched the fence line, one over the barn, another over the chicken coop. Ellie called it overkill. I called it insurance. Inside, the house felt lighter somehow. The kids were laughing again. Ellie was humming in the kitchen. And for the first time in months, I wasn't checking the road every 10 minutes. We'd rebuilt what mattered: routine, quiet, to the hum of a life no HOA could regulate. One evening, as thunder rolled over the hills, Jason and I sat on the porch drafting the website for something we hadn't planned, but now felt inevitable. FarmGuard, a non-profit legal fund for rural landowners, caught in the crosshairs of overreach and intimidation. Jason wrote the tagline in one go: protecting the land that feeds us. We launched it the next week. Within days, farmers from all over the South were reaching out. Stories of harassment, false citations, and digital sabotage. One man in Georgia wrote, "They tried to find me for my goats. Glad someone's fighting back." Another from Kentucky said his HOA banned solar panels and called it a decorative nuisance. Turns out, we weren't alone. We were just the first to make noise, loud enough to echo. 2 weeks later, Karen Larkin quietly resigned from the HOA board for personal reasons. Her official apology ran in all 3 papers. No smiling headshot, no excuses, just plain black text. I acknowledge that my actions toward Mr. Campbell and his family were wrong. I deeply regret the harm caused. I cut it out and pinned it to the barn wall right next to the old clipping that once called my farm an eyesore. Ellie rolled her eyes every time she saw it. "You gonna frame that, too?" she'd tease. I'd grin and tell her, "Maybe. Depends how famous it gets." 2 months later, we did hold an event, a small, real one. No music, no crowds. Just a slow afternoon where families could walk the rows, learn about composting, feed the chickens, and see what an honest farm looks like when nobody's trying to buy it, sue it, or claim it. Every guest signed a waiver, paid in advance, and left smiling. All proceeds went straight to FarmGuard. Near the end of the day, a young woman lingered by the fence. "You don't remember me," she said, "but I'm Justin Miller's sister." She handed me $20 and a kind smile. I wanted to see the place for myself. I gave her a basket of Carolina Gold tomatoes and pointed toward the hen. "They're friendlier than they look," I said. She laughed softly. "Honestly," she said, "this place feels peaceful." I watched her walk back toward her car as the sun dipped behind the trees, painting the wet fields gold. For the first time in a long while, the farm was just a farm again. We keep the gate closed now always, but when folks ask about that weekend, the fake festival, the lawsuit, the noise, I tell them the truth. Don't mess with a farmer. We grow things, we fix things,